Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Change your costume, change it around. Hi, it's me, Bustle Bell, and welcome back to Hot or Rat. And today we'll be reviewing episode 2 of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 10. The Tournament of All-Stars! Where the 6 queens in our orange bracket were challenged to improv with RuPaul in a murder mystery whodunit. And the runway category was coming and going. Looks that look good from the front and the back. Plus, we've got some drama to cover between Deja Skye and the Paramount Plus network, and a workroom fight that got a little spicy between Olivia and Bosco that we'll cover when we get to their sections of the video. First up, the drama with Deja. So Miss Deja was doing an Instagram live, as the queens do when they spill their hottest tea, and was talking about her experience with the show and the network and how they orchestrated the double premiere, which she and apparently the rest of the orange bracket were not too happy about. In this live that was clipped and shared out to Reddit, Deja says she and some unnamed other parties went back and forth with the network regarding this double premiere and tried to communicate to the network that doing a double premiere in a season where the orange bracket in question was only going to get 3 episodes would not be beneficial to their drag careers.
We went back and forth with the network, and the network doesn't care about the queen's well-being. They just want views and stuff, and so they were just saying how they've learned that in past having a double premiere helps with viewership.
She goes on to talk about how club promoters book queens typically halfway through the seasons, and for her, unfortunately, the season is already halfway over. Yet she still doesn't have the booked schedule she was hoping to get from a return to All-Stars.
They'll basically start booking the girls halfway through the season. Well, if your bracket is already done, that's halfway through the season. The episode's just aired, right? And I do have a gig in Seattle tonight, so I'm grateful on that. And I have a gig in Sacramento on Sunday. I want to get out there, you guys. I want to meet y'all. I want to be on the road.
And the thing is, Deja's right. This double premiere really sucks for the queens in the orange bracket, because 2 of their 3 episodes are already over in just 1 week, while all of the other queens in the other 2 brackets are going to get a solid week of existing in the zeitgeist after their episode airs. And I would imagine it's difficult for the queens themselves to process the idea that all of the time, energy, and money they spent on 2 completely different episodes are all kind of being bundled into one package. But as a fan of the show, I don't mind double premieres in a normal season. It really is just this bracket system that I can clearly see as unfair to air in this way. And also, while we're here airing our grievances about Paramount Plus, I might as well just throw out there that it is totally not right and not okay that they air these All-Stars episodes at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 a.m. Pacific. Why do we not just release these episodes at a normal time on Friday so that we can continue with the long-lived tradition of Drag Race viewing parties at bars, which, by the way, are also one of the huge sources of bookings for the queens that go on the show. Hopefully, though, the 9 queens that get eliminated from the 3 different brackets do have an opportunity to at least show up for the grand finale, which they usually do, and so they will all at least get that episode of exposure as well. But wait, my sources are telling me that you may be connecting to the internet without the safety and security of a VPN? Here's the tea. Sneaky snoopers on public Wi-Fi and even your internet service provider can see everything you're doing online, and they're probably also selling all of your data to the highest bidder. Thankfully, Surfshark is here to save the day. In just 1 click, you can connect to any one of Surfshark's over 3,200 secure servers around the globe, instantly ensuring your internet browsing activity is encrypted, anonymized, and secure. Plus, when you virtually change your location with Surfshark VPN, you can unblock news, social media apps, and even spicy websites that may be restricted in your home state or country. And guess what, Mimi? Surfshark can also help you unlock geo-restricted content on streaming platforms like every season of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars and Untucked, which, yes, is how I watch Drag Race every single week. And best of all, Surfshark can be used on all of your devices with unlimited device login. Secure your internet privacy this summer with Surfshark by visiting surfshark.com/Bussy, or use code Bussy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Thanks, Surfshark, for sponsoring today's video. Now onto the episode, which starts off with the bottom 4 queens from episode 1 deciding whomst to award their MVQ points. Miss Olivia Lux first floats the idea of giving her point to her Miu Miu house sister, Aja, and Irene is first floating the idea of the bottom four giving their points to who they thought was the best of the week. They're, of course, in the interest of her own competitive advantage. But the bottom four ultimately decide to just trade amongst themselves, with Bosco kicking off this trade by giving her MVQ point to Phoenix, who gives one right back to Bosco. Deja Skye is the next one to offer up her point, giving it to Olivia, who then ultimately does decide to give hers back to Deja. Which means going into this episode, nothing has changed between our top two. Aja's still got 3 points, Irene's got 2, and the bottom four from episode 1 each now have 1 point. And now, in the order they were questioned by Rupaul playing Inspector Poussey in the Murder Mystery Challenge, it's Aja, who in the challenge plays the characters of the late Ashley Brashley and her twin sister, Mary Kate. And in the inspector's line of questioning towards Miss Mary Kate, we learn that she and her sister Ashley grew up in the trenches of New Orleans, which is maybe the funniest thing that Aja said in this entire improv segment, because I didn't pick up that was the accent she was trying to insert into her character, but when she said that, I started to hear the little additions of like a Cajun-ish accent that she would put on some words, and it actually made it really funny to just kind of hear her go in and out of this really bad accent. I think the judges were spot on for Aja's critique in this challenge though. She did well, but just didn't add in like those 17 layers of character details like some of the other queens did tonight. Maybe she was from the trenches of New Orleans and maybe she wasn't, who knows, but I would give this a safe hot. And over on the runway, she comes out in a gorgeous glowing golden look that she says is inspired by 20s Art Deco and her spirituality. The front of this look is very warm, glowing, and pretty, and then when she turns around, she's giving darkness, witches, moonlight, brujeria. And this idea of her contrasting sun and moon is a good one. But I would have liked to have seen a little more integration between the two concepts here because they feel very separate. Like the Venetian moon cape that she turns around to reveal feels very much like an addition that was meant to satisfy a brief rather than a thoughtful piece incorporated into this original look. Which is all to say, I don't really care for the backside of this look, and so she kind of missed that part of the brief for me, but the front is great, so I would give this a warming up. And next up, she's rising from the asses, it's Phoenix, who in the challenge is playing the character of Delphine Burgundy, who is the second to get questioned by the inspector, and where we find out she's got a hidden motive for murder. Delphine reveals that the deceased Ashley Brashley actually stole her grandmother's gumbo recipe many moons ago, which caused her grandmother to have to sell her kitty for just $1. I think the chemistry between Phoenix and Rue here was decent, and what she was saying as improv parts of her character was funny. But she had this accent that was going in and out, and when it was out, all I saw was Phoenix there instead of her acting a character. And she really missed the opportunity here to find a bigger hook on the story or add some physicalities maybe to her character that would have deepened our understanding of who this Delphine person is. Overall, I'd say this was kind of boring, so I'm gonna give this a And over on the runway, Phoenix calls this look Weathering the Storm and reveals later it's actually an homage to her sister that she lost to COVID. The front of this look is gray and stormy. It's got a metallic bodice with crystal rain droplets, and she's got these stones on her face meant to look like rain on her windblown hair. And when she turns around, the back of the look is giving golden, sunshine, happiness, the opposite of what the front was giving. And I'll say this look is a lot. There are many pieces, parts, textures, fabrics, crystals, stones, etc., etc. And as a piece of art, I think it is really beautiful in its own way, and I can see the tortured soul that created this piece. As a garment though, for my personal taste, it feels a little too maximalist, like there's way too many lines and things happening on this gown, which really just isn't my personal preference, but maybe yours, so I'm gonna leave this with a safe hot. And next up, we're halfway there, it's Deja Skye, who in the challenge plays the character of Chardonnay Harrington, who's a character she plays up as a big drinker and is very messy with an eyelash so wonky that it's fallen halfway down her face. She also has this layer in this character of her being a really big flirt with Rupaul, even dropping something and picking it up so she can rub against Inspector Poussey. She was also doing lots of good acting later in the reveal portion of this murder mystery where they find out who done it. And while I don't think this was like a top performance, this was far from bad, and actually I thought Deja was one of the better ones in this challenge. So I was really surprised to hear her talk about how bad she thought she did. That Interceptor will get you, girl, but this performance was hot. On the runway, Deja says she's serving Floral Goddess in a pink purple ombre look that honestly is kind of breathtaking. It is huge, it's expansive, and I love how from the front, it's kind of giving more of an abstract flower. With these fan-like components, I'm not sure what to call them all around her, and then what looks to be the pistil of a flower on the top of her head represented as a wig. And then when she turns around, she's got an actual beautiful, gorgeous lotus flower on the back. I really enjoyed this look from Deja. It feels elevated, sophisticated, and really creative. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this, and we've seen a lot of runways by this point, mama. This look is hot. And next up, it's Bosco. And over on the runway, y'all already know I was absolutely gag-bound and chained watching this on my reaction video over on Patreon, which you can check out using the link below. But I suppose we can gush about it here too. Bosco hits this runway in a cinched coffin that she rolls down the runway, complete with candles, and then turns around to reveal that she is some gothic combination of Lydia Deetz meets Elvira. Like, this look truly had something for everybody, whether you love Elvira, Beetlejuice, or dead people in general. And Bosco just looks so drop-dead gorgeous in this burlesque Elvira, Lydia Deetz fantasy. And it also adds a lot of humor into the presentation of what she's doing, because she's playing with Rupaul, telling Ru that she's gonna leave the coffin at the end of the runway so that she can get in after, which Rupaul totally eats up and loves, by the way. This look is hot. And some fun facts about the coffin they spilled in Untucked. Apparently Bosco got this created by an OnlyFans creator who does carpentry with no clothes on. And the coffin was so big that it didn't fit into the shipping containers for the show, so she actually had to drive it up from where she lives to the production studio herself. And legend says it there still remains for Ru to rest in the day. And in the challenge is playing the character of Kitty Laveau, who has, let's just say, a lot of layers. Kitty is a cabaret singer who sings horribly and wears an eye patch because she lost that eye to glaucoma, but also wears a glass eye in the other eye because that eye was shot out by Ashley Brashley herself, giving Miss Kitty Laveau a motive for murder. And those are just a few of the things that came out of Bosco's mouth during the improv challenge, but she had Rupaul actually breaking character and laughing, which in itself is a feat. And once I saw her doing that, I was like, oh, she's like good Judy's with Ru now. Like, Ru's definitely gonna push her through. This is good signs for Bosco. And indeed, she did get topped this episode. And while I don't think Bosco's actual acting was as good as like Irene's tonight, who was above and beyond what could ever be expected on Drag Race, I do think that her top spot was well deserved because she brought so much comedy and interesting dialogue. This performance was hot. And speaking of Irene the Alien, she in this challenge plays the character of Cherry Cheeks, who's kind of a 2-in-1. At first, she's got this visage up where she's speaking in the really small, kind of nasally, high-toned voice, and is actively avoiding giving Inspector Poussey information by kind of just mumbling at some of their responses. But Inspector Poussey reveals that Irene's character actually was the first wife of Harry Harrington, the husband of the person who's dead on the boat, thus giving her a motive for murder. And when this reveal happens, Irene switches characters like that and immediately switches to this like deeper southern voice. And it was just so cool to see her do that, go character to character, because both were so different. And it's really not often, or really ever, that I'm truly gagged by the acting in an acting challenge on Drag Race, but Irene did that. Which I guess shouldn't be a surprise considering she revealed this episode she actually holds a BFA in playwriting and directing. Yet another queen who doesn't love drag and is just weaponizing her BFA, running amok. Kidding, I'm kidding, it's a joke, it's an old tweet, it's a joke. But yeah, the layers that Irene put into this performance were studied, professional, and just above and beyond. This was totally hot. And over the runway, she gags us yet again, coming out in this futuristic red power suit, giving politician vibes, and where she's wearing a suspiciously large wig that reveals to a tiny little alien inside of her brain. And behind her, because the reveal's not done yet, the entire backside of her body is actually like some sort of cyborg robot contraption. And Irene was so in character, not only for the acting challenge, but also for the performance of this look. She was giving that stiff politician and then full-on robot thing on this runway. And she even went so far as to change her makeup to give a more like pedestrian, real politician woman realness look. And this is just so, as Michelle Visage said, clever, smart, brilliant, and the perfect crazy take for a runway brief of coming and going. This was hot. And lastly, she's looking like $1,000,000. It's Olivia Lux, who in the challenge opts to play the character of Madame Bouffant, a character who is supposed to be dark and mysterious. And she chooses this character because she wants to do something she hasn't done before. They're of course taking a page out of Lana's book. And this was one of the more interesting characters I thought in this little sketch, because she is a runaway ex-circus performer that bred Crystal Ball or something like that in the circus. And it's later revealed to Aja's character that she was her mother all along. Twist on twist on twist, cause y'all wanted a twist. Concerning Olivia's performance in this challenge though, I thought the judges were a little harsh on her. She got the most negative critique, it seemed, out of like anybody. They were really trying to nail in that she needed to add some more layers to this character and dig deeper. But the thing is, I was really thrown off by a lot of the queens' accents for their characters, which were going in and out and in and out. But Olivia seemed to have a better hold on the southern accent, which I felt lended a little authenticity to her performance and made her improv feel a little more real. The one thing I thought maybe maybe she could have done better was like using the crystal ball in a more comedic way, because when she tries to take a peek into it, she can't see the future, she can't get a vision, and just kind of says, oh, the Wi-Fi must be broken. I thought she did well though, and I'd give her a hot. And over on the runway, turns the corner in an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous, show-stopping, vintage Billie Holiday-inspired look in the front with a garden of gardenias in the back, trailing along behind. Which, for some context here, the gardenia was actually a flower Billie Holiday often wore in her hair. Every detail of this dress is absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely love what they did with the microphone cord and how it trails down her dress, creating a really interesting visual line for your eye to follow. And I like how that metallic chrome is a harsh contrast to the soft beauty of the back of the gardenia flowers. Simplicity, elegance, and delicate beauty here is just unmatched on the stage tonight. Olivia's in full bloom, and this look is hot. Miss Olivia also found herself in a bit of drama this episode with Bosco when a fight breaks out while they are rehearsing their scripts. One of the queens in the room asks Olivia for a prediction since her character is supposed to be psychic, and Olivia gives the prediction that she will be in the top, to which Bosco quickly responds, well, we know she's not psychic, which then kicks off a big back and forth between these two, specifically about their accents and what accents they should or shouldn't be using. But Olivia's not having any of this at all. And as we learn in a confessional, the reason she's feeling this way is because she felt on season 13 she never stood up for herself and her niceness got in the way. And so this back and forth with Bosco is her trying to take control of the reins again and stand up for herself a little bit. Even though, as she later says to Bosco in a really heartfelt, touching apology, that she approached that situation the wrong way. The funniest part of this whole fight though was Deja grabbing some hairspray and a hat and walking over to like a bald wig head and just pretending like she was doing something while she was listening to the rest of this argument play out. Miss Nosy Neighbor. Iconic behavior. And concerning placements this episode, we've got Bosco and Irene in the top 2 positions, which I do ultimately agree with. Honestly though, I thought Irene was clearly the best in this challenge, and there were a lot of queens that were kind of middle of the pack, if not a little boring in this for me. My next 2 favorites after Irene were Bosco and Olivia though, so I like that Bosco did get this top 2 placement because her character was absolutely insane. And so Bosco and Irene get to lip sync to Murder on the Dance Floor, and once again, Irene loses a lip sync with ease. Bosco devoured this. She ate it up, girl. She starts lip syncing out in this gorgeous billowing white sheet of a dress that she's twirling and flirling around. And I was kind of thinking like, okay, this is really cool and beautiful and I like it. I think this is enough for the win. But then she takes it off and reveals this little tiny burlesque costume that she looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous in. Like, I don't think anyone has ever on the show before been as hot as Bosco. Like, I think I'm turning a little bisexual watching her on this show. She is so hot, just so hot. And Irene, like, I really couldn't even tell you what she was doing. My brain blocked that out because it was so focused on Bosco, but I'm sure she did just fine in her corner of the stage. Anyways, Bosco wins this lip sync, rightly so. And we've got some new updated points totals. Bosco now has 4, Irene has 4, Aj has 3, and then Deja, Olivia, and Phoenix each have 1. And I'll say so far, things in these first 2 episodes have felt very fairly judged, and I've been happy with the outcomes of these episodes. However, the MBQ thing is kind of scaring me a little bit here because I'm realizing it's set up in such a way that even after we get through the 3rd challenge, I'm kind of seeing a pathway for any queen to potentially enter the semifinals, which is both good and bad because, right, it's a very fair playing field with all the points getting distributed everywhere, but it could be bad news for someone if the queens decide to not play nice and, like, let's say advance somebody after that 3rd round into the semifinals who never even won a challenge, which is a theoretical possibility. And as for my final thoughts in this episode, I could be a little bit delirious, and I definitely am because I've now been working for like 17 hours at this point on Drag Race content, but I didn't really care for this acting challenge. I thought it was a little boring. Like, I was just kind of sitting there like, oh, like this is just the RuPaul acting special? Like, Ru just like had a French inspector character in his mind that he wanted to show off, I guess. I don't know. And like, this is what we got out of it. But the runways this episode were phenomenal, so I was really happy with that. Finally, let's talk about hottest hots on the runway. Of course, I'm gonna give it to Bosco, and in the challenge, I'm gonna give it to Irene. I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hots, and this week they've chosen Irene in the runway and Irene in the challenge. And I wanna give another huge thanks to Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video. I've loved using Surfshark to help secure my online privacy for several years now, and I know you'll love it too. Don't forget, visit surfshark.com/Bussy or use code Bussy at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. And I totally forgot, there's no risk in just trying it out because Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. And lastly, I wanna give an extra special shout out to Ashton, Felicia, JBR, Matthew Burns, Mika Minst, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier at patreon.com. See you later. Love ya. Bye.